Joining us now is Benjamin Radd, professor of political science and global studies at UCLA. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Can we talk about the significance of holding the summit in Alaska specifically?
Yeah, it's a former Russian territory that was sold to the United States for around $7 million back in 1867, I want to say. And it does have a remnant of Russian-speaking residents still living there. It's a territory that is familiar to Russian history, and I think represents an attempt by President Trump to try to bridge the divide, literally using a landmass, but also metaphorically with Vladimir Putin and the differences between them.
And Benjamin, President Trump has said there's a 25% chance of failure. Now, what conditions would make the summit a success or a failure?
Well, the first goal here is to set the condition, or to set the standard for failure, or the standard for success, I should say, so low that it would be relatively easy to meet. In this case, if nothing bad happens, if the two do not get into a verbal spat, if it doesn't appear that either one sort of manipulates or takes the upper hand over the other, and if they agree maybe to continue talks again, that could be deemed a success. And by that I mean there's no breakthrough. We shouldn't expect one to happen here, but they do find enough common ground that they maybe set another meeting, and that they say that there's momentum to be used to carry forward into negotiations. I think that would be the measure of success if we were to set the bar low.
Well, when you look at this, any peace deal is going to have to involve some agreement on territory, one way or the other. Russia occupies almost a fifth of Ukraine's land right now, but Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine says he will not give up Donbas. So how likely is a ceasefire at this point?
Well, to your point that any ceasefire, any peace deal requires an agreement, it also requires all the parties to be present, at least in the same room or in the same space negotiating. Notably absent from this is the Ukrainian President Zelensky, who was not invited to these talks, and also other European allies who all have contributed to supporting Ukraine during this conflict. So, and what Putin wants, he stated, it's clear, he wants to redraw the map of Eastern Europe, a map that was pretty much last redrawn after the Cold War, or after World War II, first of all, and then again during the Cold War. But what he wants is to keep in possession those parts of Ukraine that the Russian forces currently occupy. That's a non-starter for Zelensky, and so it's difficult to see how far they can get without Zelensky present to at least be a part of these negotiations.
And Benjamin, let's talk about the implications of this summit. How could this summit affect U.S. alliances and especially NATO?
Well, what we're going to look for is, will President Trump take a position that maybe is perceived as siding with Vladimir Putin, as distancing himself from NATO? NATO allies were consulted somewhat prior to this meeting, but they're not included in this meeting as well. Will President Trump take a position that is inconsistent with what NATO holds, which is maintaining Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity? If Trump veers away from any of that, if he makes a deal that involves land concessions and doesn't really invite Ukraine to be a part of that discussion or include NATO, then it is very much undermining the whole reason that NATO was created, which is to protect Europe initially from Soviet encroachment following the end of World War II.
Well, it is a high-stakes day. We've had a lot of history here with both Ukraine and Russia and our president, so we'll see kind of how this all transpires today. Benjamin Radd, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.